So in this segment, we're going to be discussing the arguments here from Tom, the intellectual titan Harwood, GB News favourite. And there's going to be a lot of pausing here, I'm sorry. It's just, he's gish galloping and coming up with so many nonsense arguments. It's very painful, and he doesn't get called out for it at all. Nonsense, absolute nonsense.
And the reason why Brexit offers opportunities, many of which have not yet been realised, because we have thousands upon thousands of EU laws still on our statute books, we have not yet pursued the regulatory divergence that is the prize of Brexit, being able to do things differently.
We are doing things differently. We have tomato shortages, that's doing things differently. We have higher costs than I think a lot of EU member states, especially the ones not impacted by the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So we are doing things very differently. Our subsidy scheme is, I think, despised by farmers because they're getting less money. So, again, he was happy with us doing things differently. I'll wait.
The reason why that's an exciting opportunity is because the EU passes new laws every day. Ever since we've left, they've continued to regulate themselves. And we've got an opportunity.
I don't think the EU does pass new laws every day. I'm being pedantic here, but they do have recesses and things like that. And we know the EU moves pretty slow, so I don't think they do pass new laws every day.
To do things differently, more dynamically. With our life sciences sector, for example, we've got so many growth opportunities by becoming this sort of regulatory sandbox. Now, the problem is...
So specifically, what can we do? For example, what can we change, in life sciences? What's your dream on life sciences? It's like the James O'Brien interview where some guy said we can change the way, bins are collected. And you're just like, bro, what? Like, is this the best you have? Or the ones who are like, we can have more powerful vacuum cleaners. I'm like, what kind of trash vacuum cleaner do you have, Chief? What kind of dirt do you have on the ground that you're pulling in that your vacuum cleaner can't handle it? Like, really, what is going on here?
If you're in the EU single market, you can't make those rules. You can't cut your own VAT on so many issues.
So there's two things here. If you're in the EU single market, you're either a member of EFTA or you're a member of the EU fully. You're a full member. So what he says here, you can't cut VAT. I'm not sure what the EFTA member rules are on VAT, but I believe that they can.
You can't sign your own independent trade deals around the world.
That's not true, because EFTA countries are part of a bloc. EFTA can sign its own trade deals, and they are part of the EU single market. So that's not true.
Can't levy your own tariffs. You can't.
That's not true. Norway has their own tariffs.
Sanction your own Russian oligarchs.
Yes, you can. You can sanction your own Russian oligarchs, because I think they will have a list. Individual countries could have had their own lists of sanctions, so that's nonsense. And also, let's not forget here that the UK sanctions were less effective than the EU sanctions. The UK sanctions were slower and had more loopholes, to the point where Russians were able to get their money out of UK banks and sell up their houses and things like that, their assets, whilst the ones that I think sanctioned by the EU, because the EU sanctions were quicker, they weren't able to get their assets out as quickly. So this is more nonsense.
So now we can do that because we've left the single market. These are material opportunities that are open to us. It's one of the reasons we've been able to lead so well on Ukraine.
That's nonsense, because we've been arming Ukraine since 2014, I think, since Russia invaded Crimea and since the civil war kind of broke out between kind of, you can argue, the ones who want Russian separatist areas and the Ukrainian forces. So we've been arming them, I believe, since 2014. So to argue we could have done things differently because of Brexit is nonsense. Absolute nonsense.
One of the reasons why this country has been able to stand pretty proud, whether it's our vaccine rollout, whether it's...
Nonsense. Even the regulator at the time said this is, we are a member, it's not because of Brexit we can do this quicker. They went out of their way to make the point that Brexit had no impact because Hungary, which is an EU member, you authorised the Russian vaccine. So this is nonsense.
It's actually the ability of coming out of what was a terrible, terrible time for the world. 2 years of lockdowns and of pandemics and of death. We are just emerging from that now, and I think it would be remiss, it would be wrong to try and look at our economic situation right now and say, this is all to do with a vote that happened in 2016. Look at what's happened since...
I think we only left the transition period in, 2021? So it's not about a vote back in 2016, because, Brexit didn't really happen until we fully left the single market and the customs union in 2021, once the transition period ended. So for him to argue the vote back in 2016 makes absolutely no sense. And he's just a spin merchant, gish galloping all over the place, coming up with nonsense argument after nonsense nonsense argument. No interruptions from any other panel members or the host. Absolutely embarrassing. If I was there, I'd be picking up on each point. Absolute nonsense.
Then. Look at the 2017 election, the political uncertainty, the fact that we almost had a Marxist become our Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Yes, Corbyn, the one who was passing Marxist policies back in his 2017 and 19 manifestos. Yeah, sure, good one, mate. He wouldn't know if Marxist if Karl Marx himself came up towards him.
That scares off business investment. We can't look at this thing as if it's only one issue. There are so many different issues that all factor in here.
I would argue the energy crisis, combined with Brexit, most of the Brexit impacts are the most prohibitive things that are impacting the country right now, along with the Tories being absolute morons. Those are the three things that are impacting us, but I'd say Brexit is definitely a large factor in the UK's problems here. But he's just gish-galloping all over the place, talking about Brexit opportunities, and he must be talking about green shoots of recovery and all this other nonsense, you know. Clearly Tom, the intellectual Titan Harwood, is just struggling out here. Yes, that is a nickname I've given him because I love nicknames. But yeah, this is just embarrassing gish-galloping, nonsense arguments after nonsense arguments. It just hurts. It hurts people of the audience, and I just don't get it. I don't get it. Panel members need to start calling this nonsense out because, you know, I can't do much from in my room from a show that happened like a week ago. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.